Hello there and welcome to this video. In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to try and store information from the user into a variable and use that variable in a different component. Okay, let's do that. Now, for the purposes of getting a user input, I'm using a input field, as you can see here. And as you can see, this input field is not bound to any value. Okay, and whatever you see here is basically coming from here. It's called label. So I can, for example, say input name. Okay, it's going to show up there, as you can see here. And if I save it, it's going to show up here as well. There you go. And the placeholder text says type here. You can actually just have a bunch of dots if you like, and that's going to show up in the app as well. All right, there you go. But it has no actual value. It's not bound to anything. And this is what we want to do. We want to bound this component to a variable so that when the user actually inputs value, we can store it temporarily for that specific session in that variable. All right, let's go to the variables by clicking on the slide or sliding it to the variables, however you want to see that. And let's go to the page variables tab. And as you can see here, I already have a page variable which we created in the previous videos. So let me first go ahead and review this. So this is a type text and you have some help value here and there's nothing initialized. Okay, so this should be fine for now. So we're going to go back to the view, that is the canvas. We're going to click on the input field and we're going to bind this input field to that variable. So click on that X sign and click on the data and variable. And this time we're going to select a page variable. And as you can see, it shows up and you can say save. Okay, let's go ahead and say save. And now the app or the input component is actually bound to the page variable. What it's going to do is it's going to take the value of the user input and store it in that variable. Now, to actually understand that it has actually stored that value, we need to be able to read that value, right? So for that, I'm going to get a card component and let's bring it down below the input field. Okay, as you can see here, there are two pieces of information. One is the title. I'm going to say this is what the user entered. Okay. Now let me go and save this. So you should see the card now here and it's saying this is what the user entered. And this is basically the content. Let's remove this. And let's bind this to the page variable. Okay. So what's going to happen is when the user inputs the value in the input component, that value is going to be stored in the page variable 1. And we're using that same information to display or to populate the card value. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and test this out. Now I'm in my app. I can see that. And I'm going to say, let's input test. Okay. And as you can see, as I enter the value test, it's populating here dynamically. Now, because I'm not handling that in a different way, for example, generally when the user inputs the value, there is an action button. So they're going to say purchase or they're going to say create or they're going to say something after that. So we take that information after the action happened. In this case, I have directly bound that input value to the variable and I'm passing that information from the variable to the card component. That is why you're able to see the dynamic behavior. Okay, let me change it to something else. Let's, for example, let's say holiday. All right, there you go. So you see that the variable concept is working nicely. You're taking the value from the input component, passing it to the variable, and then you're passing the information from the variable to the card component.